Jack Smith, dressed in his casual work clothes, a pair of worn jeans and a plain shirt, walked into the main branch of his bank. The grand chandeliers hanging from the high ceilings and the polished marble floors made him feel slightly out of place, but he was here on a simple errand. He needed to deposit $300, a task he usually completed at a smaller branch closer to his office. Today, however, he had some errands nearby and decided to stop by the main branch. As Jack approached the counter, he noticed a young man behind it. The young man, whose name tag read Lewis, had an air of self-importance about him. His neatly pressed uniform and perfectly combed hair suggested he took great pride in his appearance. Lewis glanced up from his computer, his eyes briefly scanning Jack's attire with a barely concealed smirk. "Can I help you?" Lewis asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Yes, I'd like to deposit this," Jack replied, handing over the small stack of bills. Lewis's smirk widened as he looked at the money. "It's faster to use the machine, old man. Why don't you just do it yourself?" Jack was taken aback by the rudeness. "I prefer the counter. I don't trust machines." "Seriously, are you Rip Van Winkle or something?" Lewis chuckled, shaking his head. "Look, the counter is for more important stuff. You're probably not depositing much anyway, being poor and all." Jack's patience was wearing thin. "It's your job to help customers, isn't it?" Lewis rolled his eyes. "Sure, but not when it's a hassle. People like you make my job harder," he retorted. "Other banks would accept your deposit. Why don't you go there?" Jack's frustration turned to anger. "I'm a customer here, and I expect to be treated with respect." Lewis sighed dramatically. "Fine, just fill out this form and bring it back." Jack completed the deposit slip and returned to the counter, feeling a mixture of anger and disbelief. He handed the form to Lewis, who glanced at it and laughed derisively. $300. Seriously? That's why I hate deposits from poor people. Jack clenched his fists, trying to keep his temper in check. Money is money. It's your job to accept it. Lewis leaned back in his chair, his expression one of utter disdain. "At least deposit like $11,000. Otherwise, just use the machine." Jack's voice trembled with suppressed anger. "You have a terrible attitude. I've never met a bank employee as rude as you." Lewis shrugged nonchalantly. "People like you make my job unbearable. You're just a bother." Feeling his anger reaching a breaking point, Jack decided enough was enough. "This bank chooses its customers, huh? We'll see about that." Ignoring Lewis's snide remarks, Jack pulled out his phone and called his usual branch. The manager answered promptly, and Jack's voice was steady but firm. "This is Jack Smith. I'm canceling my company's $3 billion corporate account. Make sure it's done immediately." Lewis's eyes widened, but he quickly masked his shock with a sneer. "Pretending to be rich now, are we? A corporate account with $3 billion. That's impossible." Jack ignored him, focusing on the manager's response. "Yes, Mr. Smith, I'll handle it right away. Is there a problem?" "There is, but it's too late to fix it now," Jack replied, hanging up. Moments later, the main branch manager, Mr. Reynolds, rushed over, his face pale with concern. "Mr. Smith, is there anything wrong?" "I'm the manager here. Let's discuss this in private." Jack glared at Lewis, who still seemed unfazed. "No need. This young man has already made it clear that this bank doesn't value my business." Mr. Reynolds' eyes darted to Lewis. "Johnson, what have you done?" Lewis shrugged, looking bored. "Why are you bowing to this guy? He's just a poor old man." "That's enough," Mr. Reynolds snapped. "Mr. Smith is a valuable client. We cannot afford to lose his account." Lewis laughed, his arrogance unshaken. "Banks don't collapse. We don't need to bow down to poor people." Mr. Reynolds' face turned crimson with anger. "If we lose that $3 billion contract, our bank could go under. Do you understand that?" Lewis's confidence wavered for the first time. "But how was I supposed to know? He looks poor." "Ask a senior colleague next time," Mr. Reynolds hissed, "and apologize to Mr. Smith." Now, Lewis's apology was half-hearted and insincere. "I'm sorry, okay. Can we just move on?" Jack shook his head, his voice cold. "Your attitude is the problem. I'll be taking my business elsewhere." As Jack walked out of the bank, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief mixed with lingering anger. This encounter had revealed the true colors of the bank and its employees, and he knew he had made the right decision to take his business elsewhere. As Jack Smith exited the bank, his footsteps echoed in the grand hall of the main branch. The arrogance and disrespect he had faced left him fuming. He had never encountered such blatant disregard for customer service, and his mind was set on taking decisive action. Back in his office, Jack sat at his desk and picked up the phone to make another call. This time, he dialed the number of a competing bank. He had dealt with them before and remembered their excellent service. "Hello, this is Mary Ann Collins, manager at Citywide Bank. How can I assist you today?" came the cheerful voice on the other end. "Hello, Mary Ann. This is Jack Smith from Smith Enterprises. I'd like to discuss moving my company's accounts to your bank," Jack said, his tone firm and resolute. "Mr. Smith, we would be honored to have your business. When would you like to come in to finalize the details?" Mary Ann's voice was professional but warm, a stark contrast to what he had just experienced. "Tomorrow morning works for me. I appreciate your prompt response," Jack replied, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "We look forward to meeting with you, Mr. Smith. Have a great day," Mary Ann said, her tone genuine. The next morning, Jack returned to the main branch of his current bank to ensure the cancellation of his account was proceeding. As he walked in, he noticed the atmosphere was tense. Employees whispered among themselves, and the usual bustle seemed subdued. Mr. Reynolds, the branch manager, spotted Jack and hurried over. "Mr. Smith, thank you for coming in. I was hoping we could discuss the matter further in my office." Jack nodded, following Mr. Reynolds to a quiet, elegantly furnished office. They sat down, and the manager began speaking earnestly. "Mr. Smith, I want to sincerely apologize for the behavior you encountered yesterday. Lewis's actions were inexcusable, and I assure you we are taking this matter very seriously." Jack leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Mr. Reynolds, it's not just about an apology. It's about the culture of this bank. If one employee can act this way without immediate repercussion, it speaks volumes about your institution." Mr. Reynolds looked visibly uncomfortable. "I understand, and I agree. Lewis is new, and unfortunately he comes from a background that might have made him think he is untouchable. But that's no excuse. We are implementing stricter training and supervision immediately." At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and Lewis entered, looking defiant. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Reynolds?" "Yes, Lewis. Sit down," Mr. Reynolds said, his tone sharp. "Mr. Smith has something to say." Jack turned to Lewis, his eyes steely. "Your arrogance and disrespect yesterday were appalling. You treated me like a second-class citizen because of your assumptions. I called to cancel my $3 billion corporate account, and you laughed, thinking I was lying." Lewis scoffed, his confidence unshaken. "People like you don't have $3 billion. You're just trying to get special treatment." Mr. Reynolds cut in, his voice rising. "Lewis, do you have any idea what you've done? If we lose Mr. Smith's account, the repercussions will be catastrophic for this branch. Your attitude has jeopardized our entire operation." Lewis looked taken aback but still tried to maintain his composure. "But he's just one customer. How can it be that serious?" Jack shook his head in disbelief. "Lewis, you clearly don't understand the value of a customer, any customer. And in this case, you've severely underestimated me. Your arrogance and the entitlement of thinking your connections shield you from consequences is astonishing." Mr. Reynolds sighed deeply. "Lewis, I have no choice but to recommend your immediate dismissal. Your behavior is unacceptable, and you have shown no genuine remorse." Lewis's face turned red with anger. "You can't fire me. I'm the CEO's grandson. He'll never allow it." Jack stood up, his expression firm. "Nepotism or not, your behavior has consequences. I've already arranged to move my accounts to Citywide Bank, where I'm treated with respect. Good luck explaining this to your grandfather." As Jack left the office, he heard Lewis arguing with Mr. Reynolds, the tension palpable. He walked out of the bank feeling a mix of vindication and sadness. It was unfortunate that a single employee's arrogance could lead to such drastic measures, but it was necessary for the sake of his company's financial security. "Jack, your arrogance and disrespect yesterday were appalling. You treated me like a second-class citizen because of your assumptions. I called to cancel my $3 billion corporate account, and you laughed, thinking I was lying. Lewis, people like you don't have $3 billion. You're just trying to get special treatment." "Mr. Reynolds, Lewis, do you have any idea what you've done? If we lose Mr. Smith's account, The repercussions will be catastrophic for this branch. Your attitude has jeopardized our entire operation. Jack, Lewis, you clearly don't understand the value of a customer, any customer. And in this case, you've severely underestimated me. Your arrogance and the entitlement of thinking your connections shield you from consequences is astonishing. Mr. Reynolds, Lewis, I have no choice but to recommend your immediate dismissal. Your behavior is unacceptable, and you have shown no genuine remorse. Lewis, you can't fire me. I'm the CEO's grandson. They'll never allow it. Jack, nepotism or not, your behavior has consequences. I've already arranged to move my accounts to Citywide Bank, where I'm treated with respect. Good luck explaining this to your grandfather. With this decision made, Jack felt a sense of closure. He knew he had taken the right steps to ensure his business was valued and respected. The next day, Jack Smith walked into the sleek, modern offices of Citywide Bank. The bank's minimalist design and open layout immediately gave off a welcoming and professional vibe. As he approached the reception desk, he was greeted with a warm smile by a young woman named Emily. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Welcome to Citywide Bank. How can I assist you today? She asked, her voice cheerful and inviting. I'm here to meet with Marianne Collins. I have an appointment to discuss moving my company's accounts here. Jack replied, feeling the tension from his previous banking experience start to melt away. Of course, Mr. Smith. Ms. Collins is expecting you. Please follow me, Emily said as she led him through the bright, bustling office space to a glass-walled conference room. Inside, Marianne Collins stood up to greet him, her smile genuine and her handshake firm. Mr. Smith, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Please have a seat. Thank you, Marianne. I'm looking forward to discussing how we can work together, Jack said, appreciating the attentive and professional demeanor of everyone he had encountered so far. They settled into their chairs and Marianne began outlining the benefits of banking with Citywide. She detailed their services, emphasizing their commitment to customer satisfaction and personalized service. At Citywide, we believe every customer is valuable, regardless of the amount they are depositing or withdrawing. Our goal is to provide a consistent and respectful experience for everyone. Marianne explained. Jack nodded, feeling reassured. That's exactly what I'm looking for. My previous bank failed to understand the importance of treating all customers with respect. Marianne listened attentively as Jack recounted his experience at the previous bank. She frowned at the mention of Lewis's arrogance and the overall poor customer service. I'm truly sorry you had to go through that, Mr. Smith. Rest assured we have a strict code of conduct here, and our employees are trained to treat every customer with the utmost respect and professionalism, Marianne said, her tone sincere. After discussing the specifics of the account transfer, Jack signed the necessary paperwork. As they wrapped up, Marianne handed him a small, elegantly packaged gift. A token of our appreciation for choosing Citywide, Mr. Smith. We look forward to serving you and your company, she said warmly. Jack thanked her and left the conference room, feeling a sense of satisfaction and optimism. As he walked through the bank's lobby, he noticed an elderly woman at the counter, struggling with her paperwork. A young bank employee named Sarah approached her with a kind smile. May I help you, ma'am? Sarah asked gently. Let me fill that out for you. The elderly woman looked up, visibly relieved. Thank you, dear. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. Sarah patiently filled out the forms for the woman, explaining each step and ensuring she understood. She even walked her to a comfortable seating area to wait while the paperwork was processed. Watching this interaction, Jack felt a deep sense of reassurance. He had made the right decision. This was a bank that truly valued and respected its customers, no matter who they were or how much they were depositing. Emily. Good morning, Mr. Smith. Welcome to Citywide Bank. How can I assist you today? Jack. I'm here to meet with Marianne Collins. I have an appointment to discuss moving my company's accounts here. Marianne. Mr. Smith, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Please have a seat. Jack. Thank you, Marianne. I'm looking forward to discussing how we can work together. Marianne. At Citywide, we believe every customer is valuable, regardless of the amount they are depositing or withdrawing. Our goal is to provide a consistent and respectful experience for everyone. Jack. That's exactly what I'm looking for. My previous bank failed to understand the importance of treating all customers with respect. Marianne, I'm truly sorry you had to go through that, Mr. Smith. Rest assured, we have a strict code of conduct here, and our employees are trained to treat every customer with the utmost respect and professionalism. Sarah, may I help you, ma'am? Let me fill that out for you. Elderly woman, thank you, dear. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. As Jack left Citywide Bank, he felt a renewed sense of confidence in his decision. He knew his company's financial future was in good hands, and he had found a bank that aligned with his values. The experience had been a stark contrast to the previous one, and he looked forward to a positive and respectful partnership with Citywide Bank.